Hi, you're here with Frank Mondeose at thespiritualplayboy.com, and today I am in San Marcos, Guatemala, visiting my very good friend Araminta Barbour, who owns and operates the Sanctuary Guatemala. Thank you for joining me.
Such a pleasure.
How you feeling?
Great.
Yes?
Yeah.
And what brought you to Guatemala?
The short answer is a job. I was working in international development, and I was very certain that I wanted to leave London. And as soon as I found out about this job opportunity in Guatemala with a really powerful but small nonprofit in sexual reproductive health,
Okay.
and I started reading about Guatemala, and it was a complete match to what I was looking for energetically and quality of life, and to be outside the Western rat race for the foreseeable future, and I've never really left.
How many years have you found yourself
Over
here?
8 years now.
Over 8 years. Amazing. Tell me a bit, what is this place for you, and what do you aim to do with it?
I wanted to create a space for a safe space for people to do deep transformational processes, and particularly to honor the emotional body. So this idea that we have an external sanctuary that gives us a safe space, it actually supports our inner process to go much deeper. The real impetus was that I felt like I had found my deep passion, and so it was linked to my desire to have a safe space to go into the sort of sexual wounding on the planet. I also wanted to create a resource in this village for international facilitators to come and share their gifts here, and
So
also to invite people from the community to find out what their edge was. So if they had been studying something and were finding a lot of passion, to actually reach out to others and teach something new to them, but maybe they hadn't quite done it yet. So wherever there's that edge of a little bit of fear and a little bit of excitement, but a deep call to jump, I wanted people to try things out here.
Well, that's a beautiful service that you offer people, because it's so hard sometimes to really take that first step because nobody's there to support you. So you spoke about working around sexual wounding. Can you tell me a bit more about that, and what does that mean to you, and what are you trying to offer?
To go back to when I was working in international development, I spent maybe 5 years particularly with international health-based sexual reproductive rights approach organizations. So this was this idea that addressing fertility, addressing population concerns, offering high-level health information, access to birth control, that was kind of the models addressing the HIV crisis. That was kind of the preliminary focuses of most of the big international development aid agencies. So I was sort of ensconced in that for many years. And then through my own sort of spiritual path and my own deep digging, most of my spiritual path had not talked about sex in any way. And so the sexual component was really something that I'd understood to either sublimate or repress. And then in the last 4 years, I felt that encountering ISTA, the International School of Temple Arts, that for me it felt like that was the missing pieces that I needed to integrate, and also created a deep resonance. And so now when I look out at the world, one of the things that I feel has been one of the major conundrums for our species is the sexual wounding, and that the information around how to use our sexual life force, whether it's for procreation, for deep intimacy and relationships, but ultimately to have vibrant health, and as a core component of our spiritual path and for spiritual evolution, this has become my primary passion now. And it is definitely the sort of the focus of the workshops that I deliver here.
So tell me, when you say sexual wounding, typically we'll think rape, molestation, stuff like that. What is that what you're talking about, or is there a different angle to what being sexually wounded in today's culture means to you?
No, I think I'm looking at it with a broader paintbrush, because I feel even if you've had amazing parents and then there's been no sort of extreme abuse that you've experienced personally, the culture itself is sexually wounded. And so whether it's strong repression and judgments and a lot of guilt and shame from religions, or the over-commodification from consumer capitalism, where sex is being used to sell everything, that we've been polarized around understanding what is this life force energy. And there's so limited education, even when education is in schools. It's still predominantly a biological model that's fear-based. It's about how to prevent sexually transmitted infections and how to avoid unwanted pregnancies, which is crucial information. And living in Guatemala, where the poverty is so significant here, many people have no information and no access to birth control methods. That there's no doubt that is still needed all around the planet. But of course, there's so much more that we haven't been told about our sexual life force energies. So, to me, when I look at humanity and the different forms the wounding takes, even today, in different cultures and different planets, it still seems to be one of the biggest ways that we cut ourselves off from our power. And we don't fully appreciate how much creative potential we have.
I know how much passion you put into this stuff, and I know how much you're invested in this, and that touches me as well, because that's a big part of, my work as well. And I think you're doing it in such a beautiful, organic, and authentic, sincere way. Yeah, so another thing that I know you're passionate about is women's circles and sisterhood.
One of the first pieces that I kind of dived into that gripped my attention and my imagination was the blood mysteries. So my own research took me deeply into that first. What I noticed is that there's so many women we're at war with ourselves, we're at war with our biologies, that whether it's conscious or not, there's a frustration there's self-judgment. And often that manifests through extremely painful and really challenging monthly blood cycles. There's a lot of information that suggests that in the previous epoch, before patriarchy, that we have archaeological evidence that a female form of the godhead was kind of front and central. So the sort of goddess, the feminine form of divine was primary. Basically, humanity's been studying natural cycles forever, trying to understand the mysteries of creation.
Right.
And so encoded in the lunar cycle, you can overlay what women are experiencing on their physical energetic levels, how their mental faculties are fluctuating throughout the month, their emotional cycles, and their sexual life force energy. These are the 4 things that I started to track. And so there's this idea that we move. Our biology as women supports us to have a sort of, or forces us to have a sort of embodied experience of the cycle of life every month. So you go from spring and rebirth all the way through to sort of ovulation, and often your energy and your heart energy takes on a certain quality at ovulation time or summer. And patriarchy, in a way, or culturally, we basically cut this circle understanding of creation and death and back into rebirth. Most tribal cultures have a rite of initiation. So when young women first get their blood, there's some kind of external ritual ceremony to provide a mirror for those girls to understand and reflect back that something important has changed. And obviously, overtly, there's a pretty fundamental biological shift happening. Now this being can actually bring new life in. It's pretty phenomenal. It's a mystery. It's a rite of passage. But more than that, from a sort of a shamanic perspective, the sexual awakening is happening. But how from a shamanic teaching, that means that we also have the power to create and start to shape our own life. That life force it's like a download is happening in a way. You could look at it. Often, instead of getting a powerful rites of passage, we got met with a lot of silence. And the sisterhood, the messaging you get can be extremely severe and negative depending on where you are on the planet, to the point of, obviously, this is dirty, you've got to hide this away, you're untouchable, you're polluted, you shouldn't be touching and interfering with food, you've got to keep this all away from men's kind of consciousness, this needs to be hidden. There's all this hush, it's all get pushed down into the shadow energy. So just allowing women to talk about that. We've been opening them up more to men, because I feel like there's such beautiful stuff happening everywhere, especially with women getting together, doing emotional work, allowing emotional release, starting to reframe their whole relationship to their emotional body, that all these emotions are beautiful, and to stop fighting them. what's been really interesting is inviting men into the circle, and again dropping into this almost sister space and allowing men to talk about what they learned about the blood mysteries, what it was like to be sexually intimate with a woman, and realize how hungry everybody is for this information, for them to understand more about how this cycle affects the women in their life and how to support them. The feedback I've been getting from men is actually been probably the most touching for me, so I really do encourage men to. It's time for us to stop the separation of the genders in the rich sharings that are now so available. So I think definitely this father piece is touched a lot of men, because they desperately want to support their daughters in honoring their healthy sexuality and not create more wounding. But it's one of those things that when you see it, it's so obvious. It's like we all remember it, but for some reason, because of the judgment and shame around sort of negative emotions, a lot of women are judging themselves as totally crazy, depressive, or bitchy because they find themselves having strong emotional releases, and they're often trying to always be happy and trying to always be loving and trying to always be, the shiny side of the circle, without understanding the shadow process and having a deep respect for all of us when we're going through these types of spaces. And so the feedback I've been getting is that it's familiar, but hopefully the group sourcing and this sort of map that we create together allows it to be easily pocketable and taken away with us.
Amazing. Perfect. So tell me what it's been like to move to Guatemala and live in San Marcos, this esoteric mystery village. What is that to you? How does that feel to you?
Oh, it's one of the biggest blessings I've received. It's a very curious place, living inside a volcano. I'm definitely in agreement. This is kind of known as a powerful vortex. It's strange living here. There's a lot of intense energies. It's phenomenally beautiful. The indigenous Mayans that live here, for me, are a huge gift as far as being surrounded by a culture that, for the most part, is still disconnected from the intense fast-pacedness of the Western psyche and just the culture of go, 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 go. It's just a reminder to slow down, just slow down. Just the way that they walk up these hills is just a perfect reminder of just staying much more present in the body and in the moment, and honoring just the fact that everybody says hello and really looks at
present
you,
and
smiles.
sees you,
This particular village is very unique, and we have an Egyptian mystery school here called the Pyramids, which is amazing for those people who are looking for deep dives into sort of Kabbalah in particular. So we have people doing 40 days of silence regularly. We have a Taoist master moved in, so there are Tai Chi temples there. We have the yoga forest. We have a collection of offerings for people that have the time or prioritizing taking the time to do a lot of deep inner work.
Yeah, and one of the things that they say about Lake Atitlan is that the Westerner will come for a visit, and then they find themselves moving here, or staying here, or living here.
It seems to be one or the other. I've seen people kind of get off the boat and then walk around town and just, be ejected. But I think for a lot of us, there's something here that often from the first moment of seeing the lake, there's quite a powerful, what is that? This, falling deeply in love. I've never felt this way about a particular just time and space, place. It's so powerful. And I didn't even mention the cacao shaman. I think we're still below the radar, and I hope, many of us want it to stay that way. But the word is getting out as far as what an incredible place Guatemala is. It's so beautiful. There's so much here. People, it hasn't not been kind of Americanized, so to speak. There's still such a powerful indigenous majority. The country's still recovering from almost 30-year civil war. It has its challenges, but the riches for people that are looking for a place to take some big time out and maybe connect with whatever their real next step is, their next passion. There's a lot of people here that are doing that of all ages, and it's becoming a little nexus point for that.
Amazing, beautiful. So is there any last words that you would like to share, inspirational thought, or final comment on anything that you're offering here, or anything like that?
I think for me, as far as the sanctuary goes, for people that are curious about connecting with what is happening, what is unfolding here, come check us out. I really welcome to hosting more international facilitators and bringing in, widening the offerings that are available here, which are already significant, but that's part of my joy.
And how can people find you if they are interested in getting more information about the Sanctuary?
thesanctuaryguatemala.com.
Beautiful. Thank you, Araminta. It's been a pleasure. Yes, and I love you. Thank you. So you've been watching thespiritualplayboy.com. Feel free to share this video, comment on this video, and get in touch with us. We'd like to hear your feedback about the video, about the journeys, and what do you think of this gorgeous, beautiful woman, Araminta, who is changing her surroundings by bringing through more love. So like I always say, let love free, because it's the only way we will ever change anything.
Amor.